Our own Jim Acosta has just interviewed Mitt Romney, the Republican presidential nominee. The full interview will air momentarily here in the Situation Room. Stand by. Jim Acosta interviews Mitt Romney. President Obama may have addressed world leaders at the United Nations today, but in a stunning departure, he's not meeting with any of those dozens upon dozens of world leaders. Let's bring in our White House correspondent, Brianna Keeler. Brianna, this is pretty extraordinary for a president to go to the United Nations General Assembly and not meet with world leaders one-on-one for substantive get-togethers. What's going on here?
That's right, and I think the key is substantive get-togethers. We did just get word from the White House that he had what they're calling courtesy call meetings with a couple of leaders, the head of the UN as well as the head of the General Assembly, and that he stopped by a meeting that the president of Yemen was having with his top counterterrorism advisor. But that's right, no official meetings, what we call bilateral meetings, these one-on-ones. And to say just how unusual this is, all you need to do is look to his predecessors and what they did at the UN as they campaigned for re-election.
1996, the last time a Democratic incumbent was fighting to stay in the White House. Violence in the Middle East had hit a fever pitch, and Bill Clinton took a quick break from campaigning to head to the UN General Assembly in New York. There he met with the Prime Minister of Japan, the Prince of Saudi Arabia, and the Foreign Minister of Russia. Then it was right back on the campaign trail to rally voters in New Jersey. 8 years later, George W. Bush was facing a re-election battle. The wars in Iraq and Afghanistan were in full swing, and public sentiment was souring. But he kept a full schedule at the UN, meeting with leaders of Japan, India, Iraq, Afghanistan, and Pakistan.
Well, I want to welcome Prime Minister Netanyahu both to the United States.
And 1 year ago in New York, President Obama kept very busy, meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, Palestinian Authority President Abbas, President Karzai of Afghanistan, and Prime Minister Erdogan of Turkey. Those are just some of his 11 meetings with leaders last September. Of course, that wasn't an election year, and President Obama was flying high on foreign policy successes. Osama bin Laden had been killed months before, and the demonstrations of the Arab Spring brought hope that democracy was blossoming in the Middle East.
So why no official meetings with world leaders? Well, Wolf, the White House Press Secretary Jay Carney says that the president has had extensive consultations with world leaders, and so really sort of pointing to the fact that there is this open dialogue. But obviously, when you look at this, you know that part of this is election year risk management, that these meetings between leaders can sometimes create political liabilities. The president and his campaign are trying to minimize that, especially as Republicans like Mitt Romney are hitting him on foreign policy.
Yeah, but it can also make him look even more presidential, if you will, by having these one-on-one meetings with world leaders. So there could be a positive political spinoff, as there was, I think, for George Bush in 2004 and Bill Clinton in '96. But that's going to be a subject for debate. Brianna, thanks very much. Good report, Kate.
It was a great report and gives a lot of great context. I do want to